Well, I am a novelist, but there was something that I knew in my bones that I had just somehow never quite managed to get out onto the page, despite 30 years of writing. This feeling that the writing world had certain assumptions about where the truth was, that the writing world valued certain things that were very different than the things that I had valued growing up. And that it narrated in a way that was very different than the way we narrated in my childhood home. I was not a narrative native. We didn't do this in my family. I was not asked, what do you want, as if what I wanted was a very important thing. What do I like? I was not encouraged to think of myself as a unique individual whose uniqueness was really a very important thing. Quite the contrary. And so therefore it wasn't really till I started reading that I realized that in the West, in this world that we had found ourselves, that this was a very foundational idea, that it started with pictures of you as a baby. Like, I don't have any pictures of myself, 1 minute after I was born, And in fact, I have very few pictures of myself, and there are very few stories also about me as a child. As I started to get interested in this whole question of narrative difference, which is tied to a difference in self and a difference in perception, I happened to start to work on my father's autobiography. That's something that he had written when he was 85. And I have to say, when I had first looked at it, it just made no sense at all to me. I mean, here was this thing that was supposed to be an autobiography about his growing up in China, and yet he himself did not appear until page 8. So this autobiography did not start. When I was born. I was born in this such and such a year. No. It started way before that, thousands of years before that. It went through the generations. I think that also by the time my father gets to his birth, he mentions his birth date in parentheses, in conjunction with another event. And I remember reading that and thinking, well, how very interesting. I think that I could both see that it was, quote unquote, weird from a Western narrative point of view, and yet, of course, there was something about it which was incredibly familiar to me. And I understood this. I understood this diminishment of the self. It was, it was, you know what I mean? And one thing was something I knew with my left hand, and one thing was something I knew with my right. Because I had this conflict, between an interdependent self and an independent self, and both of which are in me, I did have an artistic preoccupation, and something which I had to say, which you would have to say was definitely mine. And so there is a way in which, even as I inhabit all these other people in all my fiction, regardless of who I'm talking about, I am also still there. So there's a way in which this problem, if you will, that I have, the split between interdependence and independence, has been a tremendous thing for me as a fiction writer.